The PSP. I love this handheld. As a kid, I was blown away by just looking at it. It was a sleek yet lightweight handheld that packed power beyond my wildest dreams. You know how laptops were compromised for the longest time due to battery concerns? The PSP showed the world that a powerful, portable device could indeed work. Because smartphones were not invented yet, the PSP had a lot of forward-thinking features. This was 2005, and yet I can't believe Sony managed the impossible here. Before I get too far off track, the simple fact of the matter is I've always loved what the PSP could do, and the games. Damn, I could talk about them all day. That's what I plan to do in this series, talk about 9 or 10 games per episode to see which PSP games are worth a damn. I just want to say I'm capturing these games on a real PSP using component cables and upscaling the footage with the OSSC at 2 times, making these 480p captures 960p captures. To make my life easier, and since PSP captures look like this unedited, I've made them full screen and 16:9 aside from some of the fighting games. Enough talk, let's go.
Street Fighter Alpha 3!
Let's look at Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max first. It's the third game in the Alpha series and sadly the last one Capcom made. I wish they made Alpha 4, that would be wicked. Anyway, Street Fighter Alpha 3 is a 2D fighting game that began life in the arcades. It was later ported to consoles like the PlayStation, Sega Saturn and even the Dreamcast. This PSP version feels complete. Look at the menu screen, there's so many choices, it's like being in a coffee shop. You do not know where to start. However, I just want to talk about the arcade mode, okay? Good. There's a ton of fighters to choose from. My favourite is Chun-Li, but everyone handles differently and I'm sure a fighter here will play into how you choose to fight. The gameplay though is where the game shines. As you know, I play these games at turbo speed 4 in this case. There's a turbo level 7 which was too intensive for me. Anyhow, the game makes use of all of the PSP buttons. Every character has 3 types of punches and kicks. Yes, the good old weak, medium and strong attacks, all individually activated. I love this control type and it enables a lot of animations for the fighters. The action is super fast and full of great moments. Things that make you go, damn. Everything controls perfectly, although playing on the PSP is a bit weird at first due to the widescreen. Still, you get used to it and man, it's pure satisfaction when you do. The graphics and animations are all top notch and look beautiful. Capcom clearly went all out back then and the graphics still hold up. Don't forget there are modern games that use this style of graphics, so this is certainly up there. Even the menus look incredible. It's all flashy, colourful and it really makes me think I'm playing an over-the-top arcade game. I want more menus like this, please. The soundtrack is marvellous. It has lots of energy behind it and it makes the fights way more engaging. It's one of the best Street Fighter soundtracks, period. I especially need to mention the Vism mode. If you can use it, your character will be super fast, will be able to rack up more combos and pull off more difficult moves much more easily. If you get hit though, you lose the power, so be aware. This game is a no-brainer. You need this in your PSP collection and it's cheap. I got my copy for £8. Next up, it's Darkstalkers, the Chaos Tower. In a nutshell, the game is basically all 3 Darkstalkers games in one neat package. You can pick from the 3 games and the styles too. For example, you could pick Darkstalkers 3 but have Night Warriors mechanics instead. I do find it quite cool, but otherwise this is the Darkstalkers experience through and through. Great controls, great graphics and a fantastic soundtrack to wrap up the exciting action. Not to mention you can now play this anywhere you want. Neat! As a launch title, this game shows off the PSP's power, and it's great to see ports like this come home to the system. If you are wondering why I'm not going into much detail, it's because I've already talked about Darkstalkers 2 and 3 in depth already. If you want to know more about the games, check out the videos in the description. For me, this game is a must own and it plays wonderfully on the PSP.
Ridge Racer.
Now let's look at Ridge Racer, yet another PSP launch game. It's a reboot of the Ridge Racer franchise that began life in the arcades before becoming a PS1 launch title. So, the PS1, PS2 and now the PlayStation Portable have had Ridge Racer as launch titles. Anyway, this game is worth a damn. It was too long years since Ridge Racer had a quality title. So the game is basically an arcade racing game. It has your standard racing career mode where you not only earn trophies but new cars for performing well in each race. The tracks are a mix of old and new, which I found nostalgic. Playing on the Ridge Racer Type 4 track made me realise how great the course designs are, and the beautiful PSP renditions made me feel nice inside. It's really good to return to the past, you know. The gameplay though is where this game shines. Yes, the graphics are sweet and have that Ridge Racer Type 4 feel, but racing and drifting cars is so easy yet satisfying as heck. Older Ridge Racer games did this too, but it was uncontrollable and the steep learning curve always made me not want to drift cars. Here though, complete opposite. Drifting is easy, fun, and taking these difficult corners at high speed makes me feel like a driving god. Another reason to drift is the boost meter. Yes, you can now build up a boost meter. There's 3 types of boost: weak, medium, and strong. So you can have a bit of boost, or more boost, or wait for it, Ultra Boost! Oh my word! Lastly, the soundtrack. It's just brilliant. Honestly, the best soundtrack since Ridge Racer Type 4. It sounds more modern this time with techno beats along with the crazy rhythms. It sounds like something Sega might have done. That is very high praise since Sega made the best arcade music in my opinion. Namco did not hold back and the result is a soundtrack that would be worth listening to outside of the game. Overall, this was a great way to launch the PSP and Ridge Racer was able to find new life and recover from the not so great games on the PlayStation 2. Motorstorm Arctic Edge is the spin-off to the Motorstorm games from the PlayStation 3. Released in 2009, this was a nice way to bring the mechanics of the Motorstorm series to the handheld. Motorstorm basically is a racing game where there's lots of open-ended ways to win a race. You can pick from a number of vehicles and depending on what you pick, your automobile will have advantages and disadvantages over certain terrain. An example could be big rigs, which will easily take care of heavy, rough or muddy terrain, whereas a car will bog down and be unable to get through the same patch quickly. Of course there's jumps, shortcuts and many paths to try out. This makes each race a strategic affair as you won't know which route will be the quickest for the vehicle you pick. You do have something to aid you though. Yes, the boost meter. You can press X and use it as much as you dare. I say dare because as the meter builds up, the car will overheat. Overheat for too long and don't boost too much basically. The game is a lot of fun once you get the hang of the mechanics. The handling engine is a little floaty, but you can actually pull off some really neat drifting and sharp turns. Although the trucks I struggled with, I was simply trying a bit too hard to make these feel like sports cars, which they aren't. crashes will set you back too. It makes the game feel like Burnout somewhat, and I like that. The game looks pretty good for the PSP. Not the best, but certainly detailed enough, and the frame rate is fairly solid for the most part. I will say the scale of the tracks is more impressive, and it does make you think that the tracks are bigger than they really are. The soundtrack is licensed and full of great rock and heavy metal songs that fit the action perfectly. You will be enjoying your time here, and if you wanted Motorstorm on the go, the PSP does a good job emulating the PS3 experience quite well. Guilty Gear XX Accent Core Plus is an updated version of Guilty Gear X2 which was first released in 2002. Anyway, this PSP port manages to capture the spirit and the feel of Guilty Gear very well indeed. There's a lot of modes to choose from, but for this video I'm just playing the arcade mode. There's a decent amount of characters to pick from, many returning characters and new ones are present. I only truly know the characters from the first Guilty Gear, but the new ones seem cool. So, Guilty Gear is a 2D fighting game that is fast and furious. It's a game that requires total concentration and aggression to win. Flip up even for a moment and wham bam boom, game over. Thankfully there's a lot here to help you gain the advantage. The controls are simply perfect. Every button input is quick and instantaneous. The only blame you can have for losing is yourself and not the game. Yes, the controls are that good even on the PSP's widescreen. There's many combinations to pull off, and fighting airborne is also a good choice. I feel the game is at home when in the air. It's easy to start a combo and really punish those who mistime their defense or counter attacks. The game also makes stringing combos together a breeze. Simply put, you just have to go for the attack and make sure to counter or break an opponent's combo as quickly as possible. So, the gameplay alone is already worthy enough. Thankfully the sound, music and graphics are all well done too. I'll admit the music is somewhat old as these films have been done to death at this point, but you can't fix what isn't broken, right? A great soundtrack is always going to rock, and this game certainly rocks. I love the Guilty Gear music, and thank God it still holds up. The graphics are great with good detail and a sort of charm that most other fighting games lack. I'll admit, the game does look a bit fuzzier than I'd like, but it's only a minor issue. Don't let that get in the way, because this is a fighting game of the highest caliber. If you need a great 2D fighting game on the go, Guilty Gear is worth a look. Pursuit Force is my kind of game. The game is about a city basically under siege by multiple criminal gangs who want nothing more than to cause chaos and to steal valuable items. The city's mayor then makes the Pursuit Force, an elite police force tasked with getting rid of the crime that's infested the city.
Noted. Starting today, we're taking back the streets.
And what should we call this new initiative?
The Pursuit Force.
I just love how over the top the premise is. It's so campy and reeks of 80s over the top action. Simply awesome. This trope continues because you then get to see which gangs you're up against and their skills. Honestly, 13-year-old me loved every second of this game. Pursuit Force is basically a mission-based driving game. You drive on a linear path and you get given a set of objectives to fulfill. From stopping cargo to protecting important people of interest like the mayor, Pursuit Force certainly keeps you on your toes.
Hey, we're being tailed!
So you can drive and shoot, but the best way to deal with these crack wannabes is to jump onto their vehicle, shoot them in the face, and then take their automobile.
5 more barrel carriers to go. Hurry!
You can duck for cover, and if you get flung off, you need to get back on using the D-pad. This is without a doubt the best part of the game, and I do love this technique. As you play the game, you will unlock new cars, modes, and even abilities. I also need to stress that strange looking bar in the lower right corner. It's the pursuit meter. Inventive name, I know. Basically, it will fill up as you do acts of justice, and it will decrease as you do acts of bad things. Basically, be good. Being bad is, well, bad. When it's full, you can do 2 different actions. Either replenish all of your health, which is sort of useless later as your health will regenerate via an upgrade, or the better use of it, jumping in slow motion to other cars. Oh my god! That is so 80s and so rad. I love doing this. It's awesome!
Breathe in some toxic death.
Anyway, the controls are solid, although the boat handling is a bit rough but usable. The game's graphics are quite good. Lots of detail for the time, and I love all these insane stunts your character performs. Too bad the frame rate keeps chugging all of the damn time. As a teenager, I don't remember the game slowing down this badly. This sucked because trying to play a game in slow motion half the time is not desirable. The sound is satisfying and the music is great too.
How come Pursuit Force
The
sent
voice acting is well over the top, but you know, in a game like this, it fits perfectly and there's a charm about it that makes you want to hear more.
Ha! Who's swimming with the fishes now? Those delegates ought to throw you a party. Well, aren't we proud of ourselves?
Pursuit Force is not a perfect game and it's not an easy ride. This game will destroy you if you dare start getting lazy with it. But this is one of those games that is worth buying alone for its over-the-top nature and solid gameplay.
Who sent you on a cruise? They're almost at Aspen Town.
Here is the Sega Megadrive Collection. It's a collection of Megadrive games for the PlayStation Portable. There are some decent choices here like Golden Axe, the Sonic games, and even some RPGs. Yes, for a cheap price, the Megadrive games included in the package are not bad at all. I wish Streets of Rage was here, and some of the games are not my cup of tea, but the emulation is decent and works fine on PSP. It's just an uninspired release, but again, for a cheap price, this is not a bad way to play some of the Megadrive games on the PSP. This is more like it. Burnout Legends might be an early PSP game, but damn, it's amazing. It's basically Burnout 3, but with elements of Burnout 2. I don't need to say much more, but I'll elaborate a bit more. Burnout Legends is an arcade racing game where you take part in many events. In the career mode, you have a world map with different events and tracks to participate in. You can even do the crash mode and one-off special events as you unlock more races in the game. The game is so much fun. The boosting is awesome, the crashes are amazing, and when you do crash, you can take control via impact time. You can steer your car into other opponents to earn takedowns, which will increase your boost, or during crash mode, use it to place your car to cause maximum damage. All of this on a game that runs smoothly and just presents over-the-top action. I need to say, the crash mode is awesome. It's basically a puzzle type mode where you need to make the traffic jams pay. Yeah, take that, Rush Hour! So great to see the cars crash and burn, baby. Burnout Legends is a no-brainer and it's one of the best PSP games of all time. One day I'll fully complete it, I'm sure. And last up for this video, it's Rengoku, the Tower of Purgatory. I've never heard of this game and no one talks about it. Let's see if it's worth a damn. It starts off so well. There's a cinematic cutscene that had my attention. It looked really cool, foreboding and somewhat creepy too. I thought I'd actually found a hidden gem. That was until the tutorial started. After that, well, the game began to go downhill. The game's attempt to teach you the game's mechanics is laughably bad. The text disappears too quickly and you can't actually control what's on screen. You simply forget everything you just saw within moments, and I'm sorry, the dodge mechanic looks ridiculous. How did anyone see this and go, yes, that looks fine to me? Seriously. When you actually play the game, the nightmare continues. There's so much going on in the menus and simply lots of functions you couldn't care less about. But I don't want to go on a tangent, so I'll simplify everything. Rengoku is a 3D beat 'em up game where you go into various rooms, beating up anyone in your way to unlock doors to progress. As you fight, enemies drop weapons and items that you can equip at this room here. You can also destroy these boxes here for pickups, mainly health and ammo refills. Once you can equip weapons, you go to a screen showing all of the body parts that can be equipped with said item. I was very confused at first until I realised the face buttons on the PSP were individual limbs. For example, I could equip 2 swords and a gun on my head. I could use all of the weapons here by pressing square, circle and triangle. I'll admit, once you get the decent weapons, the game becomes somewhat easier. Until you realise whenever you use a weapon it runs out of ammo or health. Makes sense for the gun, but the swords? Even swinging them in midair wears them out. What? That's dumb, man. It gets worse because the combat sucks. The controls are mushy and I always felt as if I was controlling a brick. It's slow, unresponsive at times, and there's no flow or punch. Simply put, this game is no fun to play. The dodge roll still looks stupid, although it is the most responsive move of the game. Yay, I guess. The lock-on function is basically broken. Moving towards anyone with the lock-on engaged is a challenge in itself. What's worse, when you take damage, the lock-on immediately disengages. The amount of times I've shot at the air or wall because of this cannot be understated. If you die, and you will, you get set back to the save point and you will lose everything your character had equipped. You might have spares in your infantry box, but if not, prepare to be throwing these weak punches and fighting the worst way possible. As in, one hit, dodge a million times over, and repeat. Yep, this game really wants you to hate it. The graphics are okay, but lack colour and the level design is very uninspired. Just long corridors that are all grey and look very much the same. Yeah, the visual candy is at a minimum here. The sound effects are stock, and not even good stock either. You start to get the sense that the cutscene was where the budget went and not the actual gameplay itself. The music is very annoying. It repeats all the time and only serves to make your ears bleed. This game had great potential, it really did. Ultimately, this is one example of when someone's ambitious ideas do not translate into a video game that's worth experiencing. Sorry Rengoku, you tried, but I'm certainly not playing you ever again. There we go folks, there's 9 PSP games for you. Not every game was amazing, but that's okay. I'm willing to show the good and bad just so you can see what might be worth buying for the system. I had a ton of fun playing these games for you guys, and I will definitely continue to buy PSP games and to conduct reviews on them from time to time. Alright, let me know what your thoughts are on the games I showed off today, and until my next video, I will see you soon.